Oh no! And then we lost him. Okay, guys. Well, welcome back. If you're even here, to This is Dunder Moose. Oh man. So a while back, I was making fun of Black Lodge because of their issues, and then I was doing one on EV Mux, and it threw a fit and screwed up on me. And now I'm back on StreamYard, and it looked like it just messed up again. So I might have to.
I found it. It's a different link.
It's a different link. All right, let's both just blast the link all over X, and I will actually put the link in the show notes to the old one if it's still so ridiculous.
Not a problem.
Nothing but a pro here, y'all. All right, this one is that one's not live yet. Let me see. Where's the one that's live?
Happen.
Okay, here we are. All right.
If you're there.
I'm getting the echo, so I must have found it. Sorry, guys.
Got it going, man?
Hang tight. We're getting there. Looks like some people have found us, so welcome to unless that's you two. Let me go onto the one that has all the cool thumbnails and all that stuff, and I'm just gonna edit it real quick. I'll put it in the chat. That's what I'll do. Watch us on the actual link here.
There you go.
And
you can always switch the thumbnail afterwards.
Yeah. And then I'm just gonna put it in the description. This is so. Oh, this is how the week is going. Paul Van Dyke is in the chat. Thanks for making it. Bradford Walker figured it out. All right, the crew's starting to show up. I am gonna just edit the original one to put it in the description, and then we should be off to the races. It's the curse of laughing at BLG for their tech problems. It's like
teach you.
It's like getting bit by a were rat. Like once you make fun of that, then hang on, I'll say actual.
All right, there. I've got that updated on my social media.
All right, guys. Thanks for helping out. I just updated the description on that one. So hopefully anybody that's still chilling over there waiting will find their way to us. And we'll fix the rest.
Thank you for coming
later. Thanks for coming. So okay, I was just telling these guys right before we went live. I was just telling them, I like doing the live thing. I don't have to edit. I don't have to fix anything in post. All of this whole intro so far has been a fish head. You could just chop it off and start the episode now, and it would be good. And if I didn't go live, I could do that. But I'm glad you guys are here. Welcome back to This is Dunder Moose. I have returning guest DM Blackwall, and I got both sides of the creative team now. I got both Todd and Nate, and they're here to tell. We're going to talk about. You guys got a ton of stuff going on. You've been on McCrease. You've been on Black Lodge Games. You've been on Dungeons and Dyslexia. Now you're here on This is Dunder Moose, and that's not all. You got some conventions coming up that you're going to be making appearances at. So why don't we start there? What do you guys got going on? Where are you going to be? And what do you think about it?
Sure. So Nate and I, along with our friend Steve, are planning to be at North Texas RPG Con in about a week, actually. It starts next week, Wednesday.
Yep.
And
have you been in North Texas before, or is this going to be your debut?
It's going to be our first time there. We're set up to run 9 games, I think. We've also got a booth.
Okay.
So pretty excited about that. And
then, are you both going to be in all games, or are you going to have to like divide and conquer? 9 games, that's kind of a lot.
So when we do
divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. So when we do conventions, we want to ideally have at least 3 people, because then you've got one person running games, one person manning the booth, and one person on break or able to do other stuff for fun.
Cool.
Right. And so our friend Steve is being the third man for this time. And then when we've done other conventions in the past, we've had our friends Joe, or another person named Joe, actually, do that as well.
Joe or other Joe.
Joe or other Joe. Also a guy named Jeff has done that. So that's that's the plan there. And then we are also scheduled to be at Nova Open. And let me quick double check those dates. It's in Washington D.C. at the end of August. What is that, Nate? Labor Day weekend?
It's Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, the weekend leading to Labor Day. And that one's a wargaming convention that has recently expanded out into RPGs. So I think we're scheduled to run like 9 or 10 sessions there. That one, we actually really need people to sign up. If you're on the East Coast, sign up for Nova Open. Come game with us. We'd love to see you. The North Texas, we've got like I think 60% of our tickets sold.
Oh wow.
Whereas Nova Open, which admittedly is further out, there's more time to sell those tickets. That one we've got probably like 90% of our space open or something. So we would love to game.
I mean, I know you're not allowed to pick favorites, but on my show I can ask any question I want. Like, which of these two are you most excited for? Going to North Texas, which is like bread and butter RPG, or are you like a little more excited for the wargaming one and to see what that's like and get maybe exposed to some new stuff you haven't seen before? And it's okay if you both have different answers.
What do you think, Nate?
So I think I'm looking to learn both for different reasons. I think that's where I'm at. I'm more of a creature of variety. Like I like the good old gaming convention.
Mm-hmm.
Good time, good people, have fun, roll some dice, and see some characters meet their grisly end. Hopefully by their own choosing, but or just bad choices.
Yeah.
But then the
as long
wargaming,
as it's hilarious, there's nothing to complain about.
Correct. Like, okay, that's acceptable. Where the wargaming, I've dealt with some of those before, and it's good. That's a good competitive atmosphere. And it's just a change of venue. DC, well, Dallas is a big city and all that too, but it just see how different people do things.
Okay.
I think between the two, I'm probably looking forward to North Texas more, but that's just because we have a good number of customers out that way that I know are excited to see us. And so I like gaming with people who either have and enjoy our product or want to try it for the first time. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm more nervous about the Nova Open one. We'll see how it goes. But I mean,
because you're like,
case,
I'm selling oranges, and they're like, oh, we buy apples here.
Yeah. Worst case, we're just hanging out at a wargaming convention for the weekend. Like, that's fine. I would enjoy that too.
Yeah.
But I would rather get to game with people there.
I'd be interested to know if it's the exact same vibe at both places, or if they're like if there are subtle differences between your average group of role-playing games aficionados and your average group of wargamers.
I know the size is different. North Texas is like a 7th or an 8th of the average attendees of the of Nova Open. Maybe a 5th on the top.
Interesting. A wargaming one bigger than the role-playing game one.
Yeah. It's the RPG side for them is just kind of a side of, hey, this is an option for people when you have off sessions.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a different vibe.
So it's more of a novelty.
Yeah.
Whereas they're there for something like bolt action or 40K or something. Yeah.
Back in my Pathfinder Society days, when I was a venture officer, I helped organize one called Tokyo and Tulsa. And it was essentially the gamers and the cosplayers didn't have enough money to get a good convention, so they pulled it. And then they brought basically tabletop gaming and stuff too, just because the demand was so high. And really, we were kind of a side attraction, which would be more close to what Nova Open is. But we still had 200, 300 people. I ran like
there's got to be there's got to be a ton of overlap between the two communities. Like, seems like people that are into one are into the other. I personally, I've got a bunch of unpainted Warhammer minis, so I guess it doesn't really make me a wargamer. But I've got BattleTech in addition to Horde Wars and First Edition, and I got my Poplar slipcase has not arrived yet, but I do have
no Axe yet.
X2 is on the way. Yeah. All right. So you guys are busy, and how do you balance all of the marketing stuff that you need to do all the games you need to run with the act of creation?
Nate?
So I know both Todd and I do have normal gaming groups, and we do try to do ones online through our server.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those are the test dummies. I hate to say it
Yeah.
that way. And sometimes that way we can see at the table, like, is this mechanic going to work at all or not? Or is that like something we need to really take back and clean up for a minute?
And are your players just like players, or do they know that you're like, okay, I need you guys not just to play and have fun, but like I need you to give me feedback on what works and what doesn't, and like put on your critical hat after the session? Is there an
Both.
element of that, or do you have
Both.
people where you're like, you're my knock, you're the one that knows to not just play, but there's other people that they're just going to be players and that's all they are, and that's fine?
It's both. There are games or campaigns we're playing that are just for fun, but then there are groups that are actively helping us test stuff. So like,
Okay.
I have usually two active play test groups a week, sometimes more, and then the stuff on the Horde Wars server, sometimes that's play testing, but more often that is teaching new people to play the game or doing like an ongoing campaign with some of our customers, like in the larger setting and that kind of stuff. So there's some of both. But as far as balance goes, it's really just kind of focusing on what I can do in a day. Physically, I can't work like I used to be able to. So I work less than I would prefer at my normal job because my body just won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but it's not as hard to do some typing while laying down, for example.
Yeah.
So as a result, I'll tend to do some game design when I would otherwise be resting. And the same is true for I don't know, for like doing something like this, doing a stream like this with you. And just try and schedule around it so it's not during a time when I would be working on the game or when I would be working or that kind of thing. So like today I worked for 5 to 7 hours at my normal job. I also did probably 2 or 3 hours of game design work, and then
it's a long day, and now you're here talking to me, and you're still awake, and you're not yawning. That's crazy. Well, I appreciate you being here. Go ahead, Nate.
And then, like, for me, sometimes when you get that phone call, hey, we have this new idea. Is this stupid or not? Or you know, like, hey, you know,
how long does it take you to figure out if it's stupid, right? Like, is it right away, or you're like, oh man, I gotta play around with that and see if it is stupid or not?
It's more of a iterative drafts where we go, okay, that makes sense, and then we read it again, going, we tried doing that. That may or may not work, or is there a better way to write that or to clear it up? Like, because part of our problem too is we have decades of years of experience game mastering.
Yeah.
And we could pull an counter out of our hat that would make sense. And we know the system. I mean, we made it, right? And so, but the question is, from someone that's not us, how would they handle this situation? And can we answer those questions?
Yeah. So this is fascinating to me because the last time that I talked to people like this, it was Black Lodge Games. And so all of my questions about writing and stuff, it's like you guys are kind of got the similar dynamic. You're not doing it on your own. You have someone to bounce ideas with back and forth. You have someone that can take something and sharpen it and hand it back. And like, how has it been working together, and who does what? Who's responsible for what parts of it?
Well, it's been good, but we've been off and on doing game design of one form or another for, I don't know, probably 20 years.
Wow.
Together.
Okay.
Because we were doing stuff like making and editing stat blocks between calls at work 20 years ago or more. Like, our boss knew at the time. We actually ran a campaign out of the break room for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I got a buddy who's he's in learning and development, and so he has L&D, D&D, and they have a 5e campaign that's going on during lunch breaks every day. And I'm like, so you only get like, I mean, it's not even an hour, you know, of the when take the time for everyone to get their food, microwave their burrito or whatever, and sit down. Like, your game just progresses in 45-minute increments. But he's like, but we're gonna be there every day, so
Yeah.
it
That's
doesn't
true.
need to be huge. You know, they just keep scooching it along, and everyone's having fun. I'm like, man, that sounds actually like I want to work there now.
And so I do a lot of the Nate does a lot of the concept drafting where he'll write like a list of things, and then
Okay.
I'll tend to write a refined version of that. And then we'll kind of go back and forth for an iteration or two to try to get it clear enough that we understand what the rule is or what the thing is
Hmm.
supposed to be saying, and that it's good to go. And then we'll have somebody else read it.
Yeah.
And then we try using it.
Right on.
Um,
Well, I think that makes a big difference. I think I mean, dare I say that there might be a lot of stuff on drive through right now that the person just thought it up, wrote it down, and hit publish. Um,
oh, definitely. I know some of those guys. They were quite clear that is exactly what they did. Other ones have actually tested it, but
yeah, yeah. It seems like yeah, it seems like that should be the bare minimum after you make something before you put your shingle out. Is like test. Is this gonna work? Is this actually gonna be fun? Is this gonna be worth people's times?
yeah, and it's really hard to get good playtesting in, not in terms of the amount of, it's not hard to find people who want to try a game,
Yeah.
really. But it is hard to find people who will give you useful feedback that isn't
Mm.
just, I want to self-insert this thing I like into your game.
Yeah. That can be a
Uh,
huge one because they might be good at finding out where the problem is, but you can't fully listen to them because they'll go on to offer a solution that may or may not have anything to do with the ethos of the game, right?
yeah,
So, like,
or just inject something that isn't like a major theme in the game. Like, for
so yeah,
example, if you're doing medieval fantasy RPG, you probably don't want guns
some of us
unless
do.
you're like high Middle Ages or later.
Yeah, yeah, right. Um, but yeah, you can't just dismiss that they found a problem because that they aren't good at designing, right? Like, not everybody that's good at it's like listening to a concert and somebody hits a wrong note and it was like, I can't remember which note it was. I just know that at one point it wasn't perfect. And so it's like they're not going to ask me to recompose the song because I don't know how to write music, but like just listen, say, all right, there's a red flag there. And maybe they put their finger on exactly what was wrong, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just in the vicinity. So you have to listen to them, but you also have to filter it um, through what you already know about the game.
Hmm.
Speaking
Oh,
of
I've
which,
seen.
we got BLG in the chat. Another group of two experienced role playing gamers that can bounce ideas off each other and that co-create. And Black Lodge asked, Todd, are you running dropship at NTRPG?
It's a good question. If I do, it'll be off book.
Yeah.
Um,
How close is dropship to being ready?
so that depends on what you mean. If you
Yeah.
mean ready for production, we are a little under a year out.
Okay.
In part because that involves a lot of editing, artwork, this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of playtesting, we're pretty close to done. I think we're going to do one more 4-month, fairly intensive set of playtesting once our current rules revisions are done.
Right on.
But in terms of writing, there are a ton of stat blocks
Yeah.
that I have to rewrite because
Okay.
we've written them and rewritten them as we've gone through iterations of the core game. As far as core game mechanics goes, the player facing stuff's basically done.
Done.
All we're doing right now, like there's some lore type stuff I got to write still,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's today I was writing out descriptions of what the different kinds of planets you can find are, like
Mm-hmm.
inhabited worlds specifically. I'd already written out the gas giants and this kind of thing. And frankly, what I'm mostly doing is I'm copying my last draft, I'm pasting it below, I'm writing a new draft, and then comparing it and going, okay, is there stuff I should be pulling from the old draft as I rewrite this?
So, note about this old draft bit. Horde Wars started as a sci-fi game. So
That's
that
right.
actually predates Horde Wars.
We talked about this when I drove up and
Yeah.
played with you guys, that like it started with the sci-fi game and then it kind of, but you never let go of the idea of the original germ of the idea, right?
No, we wanted to do a sci-fi game, but it was really just the medieval version was more popular with our playtesters, so we did that first. Plus, there's a larger market. There's more people in general who will buy medieval fantasy RPGs than there are who will buy sci-fi.
So this whole time, were you kind? Because I asked Black Lodge Games the same kind of question, like because they got a bunch of stuff going, and I'm like, I know that while you were still developing one, you started having ideas for the next thing, and they're like, yeah, we just had a notebook and we would just write it down, set it aside,
Exactly.
keep focusing on the job at hand, but knowing that we're building this kind of swipe file for when we get to the next project.
Yeah, because it's key to especially get these stuff out in a timely basis. You got to kind of sit down and go, we got to get this thing out.
Yeah. Okay.
So to answer your question, the core game is essentially done, other than some rewrites. However, the stat blocks, the monsters and enemy ships that you're going to fight, that kind of thing, I have to rewrite all of that.
We have drafts, but it's
we have drafts, but I have to rewrite it.
But the system has grown since then, and
the system has grown. Our writing has gotten cleaner, which is to say we can in less space express the same idea.
Rock on.
And often more clearly. And then we also have to write a starting adventure, starting area type thing. We've actually done a fair amount of the design work for the setting. I've got several documents for the setting, but I have to do a zoom in of like a few specific worlds or planets. And I think we're probably going to do the Haven star system. We were talking about that with our main artist, and it sounds like he's interested in that. And basically that would have the world of Haven, which is a human colony that was originally that became a tax haven. So most of the major corporations of Earth moved their headquarters there to not pay taxes.
So you made Space Delaware.
Yes. And then there's some like cool, like specific cultural things about it. But then there's also that star system also has a prison planet. And so if you get convicted of a serious enough crime in that star system, they will ship you off to go work in the mines.
Wow.
Like there's some dystopian stuff there. And
so what are the influences for dropship? Because I mean, the first one comes to my mind, the movie with a dropship in it is Aliens. Sorry, the second one.
Sure. Aliens, Starship Troopers.
Okay, and then Prison Planet makes me think of the second Pitch Black movie.
Yep, Pitch Black as well. Yeah. We do have, I think, enough stuff that if you're a creative game master, you could get pretty close to being able to play. Let me think. You could get pretty close to being able to play something like Star Wars if you wanted to.
Okay.
We don't quite have Jedi, but we have some guys with like mental powers. You could kind of get there. We also have I think enough stuff that you can do if you wanted to a more hard sci-fi. Ours is adjacent, I would say, to hard sci-fi. Ours is harder sci-fi than space opera, but there are certain real physics things that we are assuming technology has fixed or are simply ignoring for ease of play.
It's still going to be a game at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And then things like Traveler.
Okay, so that was to be my next question. How many sci-fi games have kind of gone into the blender as far as inspiration or mechanics or things like that? I mean, Traveler's obviously like the first big one most people think of, but
I couldn't count. I mean, Nate's run more systems than I have, but we've both read even more than that. And And
Hey,
then there's
Scooty.
also like different book franchises and movie franchises and shows and cartoons, and it would be very hard for me to try to list them.
Were you guys aware when the Mothership Kickstarter came out like years ago?
Yeah.
I remember one of the things on their Kickstarter page was they had it was an influences bingo, and it had like a square for the different like movies and cartoons and like books and stuff that like kind of inspired them. I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
We tried to get as many of those influences in, but sort of like a lot of people say, Horde Wars is, medieval Europe was the barcode sawed off. And
Yeah.
in some ways, that's kind of, we did that again, where you could go multiple different ways
Okay.
if that's what your players wanted. Like, there's enough there.
So if I got a guy, all he's played is Traveler, how would you say that Dropship is different to that for him?
It'll play faster. There's going to be more character advancement.
Okay. Yeah, there's
also going to be more
once you
gear
roll
than
up a Traveler, like there's not much advancing that happens.
There's not. There's also going to be more gear than in basic Traveler. Now, if you're adding in all the various expansions, maybe not. But as far as core book material goes, there's going to be more gear.
Yeah.
Unlike Traveler, for the Game Master side, there's going to be a bunch of monsters and beasts and aliens and enemy starships ready to go to play with, and enemy factions already written for you to play with, which was to me one of the big weaknesses of the core Traveler book on a running the game side. You had to basically make everything.
The only Traveler that I've played is the Traveler Moonsteins with the 3 original little black books and playing with Jeff Rowe and B-Dub. So like I know that I haven't even seen an alien, right? Like maybe an alien bird or an alien weasel or something, but so I can't really, that was a hypothetical question because I don't know Traveler from much.
Well, we've got more of a for our setting, we've got more of an existential crisis where 6 to 8 alien factions. Alien species would be loosely correct, but some of them are factions of more than one species. So
like the Covenant
6 to 8,
Halo.
Yeah. 6 to 8 factions have discovered humans exist and decided to carve up our territory like a bunch of Europeans carving up Africa or China.
Nice.
And except that all humans are on the receiving end of this. And some of the aliens want to just conquer us, and have us as a client state. Others want to exterminate humans or eat them. In the case of the
we are pretty tasty, I hear.
Yeah. So the various goals are different. One of the alien groups basically just wants to rob us and take our stuff. Like, but none of them are good.
Yeah, right. There's none that we would ally with.
Yeah, and so humans are in a position where they are losing a multi-sided war and need to figure a way out. And it's kind of left to the players to be the heroes to fix this problem.
It almost feels like, did you guys ever play the video game Destiny? The original Destiny 1?
A little bit. Yeah.
No, I know some guys who did, but I wasn't.
So it's got a similar vibe in that like, Earth just got wrecked by like everything. And there's like one city that's left, and there's like this giant alien artifact floating over it that brings back the dead as these guardians that can fight and die and get reconstituted over and over again. Yeah. And so you got this like just kind of Earth versus everybody mindset. No, that was like 10 years ago. Like the game now, you've like allied with most of the alien species. Like even the worst of the worst have like joined your side against another one for some reason. So I don't even know where that went with it, but like that year one Destiny 1, if any of those like hardcore nerds are watching, that idea that like humanity's up against it, like almost like a Battlestar Galactica, like we're getting hunted.
Yeah.
And we're not the Supremo, we're not the biggest bad in the universe. We're just like, we got to do something quick.
Well, like Dropship, the name, originally the kind of the way we're going with it, this version was sort of Starship Troopers, where you're in a dropship and possibly a suicide mission to save one of the failing colonies that's attacked. Like,
Nice.
like you might be the final line.
Yeah.
Win
If
or
you
Get
guys
to the
don't- failure is not an option.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
cool.
so we originally, when we were originally going to do a split book, where we had the like kind of Space Marines or Space Army branch as one book, and then the kind of Space Navy branch as the other book. But talking with our artists, looking at layout options, we are pretty sure we can do them both in a single volume,
Okay.
which is great. We estimate it'll be about 300 pages on completion, which is perfect. If we can get it there or less, that'll let us make it at a reasonable production cost.
Mhm.
Whereas the other project we're working on, which is a superhero game, that one either is going to be, we're either going to have to kickstart it, have a ton of people pre-order, or we're going to have to invest heavily, because that one's going to be about a 450-page book.
Wow. Okay.
Or 2 books.
Yeah.
So I know everyone's all worried about the tariffs and how it goes for indie publishers and stuff. Is that something you guys are talking about, or
Not at all.
not even on the radar? Okay.
No, man. So we don't we don't produce books overseas. We are entirely US based. In fact, we recently started shipping overseas for print on demand service, but the company that we have doing that is actually US based. So sometimes they will print an individual hardcover in another country to dodge taxes.
Oh,
Which
okay.
we're okay with. We don't want to pay extra taxes. We don't want our customer to pay extra taxes. But any print run that we do is in the US with US manufacturers, and as often as possible in our own state.
Okay.
We have one that did the soft covers. That's basically 2 hours away from us.
Yeah.
Hey, well, there you go.
Like many of
Yeah.
our gaming friends live a block from there. Kind of levels.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
we know exactly where this is coming from.
So not even on there. We do have an interesting question in the chat. I'll throw it to my guests. Has anyone made Dunder self-conscious yet about how his bald spot under this light makes it look like he's got a tonsure? So I'll let you guys answer that.
I try to avoid it because I have my own.
Yeah, man, that's really, look at the glow there. That is some nuclear. Yeah, I like the tonsure idea. I like trying to claim that this was a stylistic choice. The fact of the matter is, when you suffer as I do from such an excess of testosterone, these things are bound to happen. Just goes with it, you know. So thanks for the question, Commodore. Keep them coming. Maybe some questions about dropship or advanced.
Yeah. Well, we haven't really talked about like the game too much. So
do it. Yeah. Come on, man.
So
because I'm thinking it's D12, just like your other one, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of shared DNA. The thing that I recall the most, well, first of all, there's a lot I recall about playing with you guys. One was just like your map and mini game was on point, and just like giant snakes and just all that stuff. But like, there came a point where I was like, all right, I think we have this. We've breached the wall of the castle. We know where the lich is. The paladin was still on her horse. And then all of a sudden you bring out this huge bag and you're like, all right, now here's where the zombies come in. And just like tons of dice came across the map. And I was like, holy crap, what is going to happen next?
Horde Wars.
There's a horde and they war on you. Is there something like that in dropship? Like, is there like a mechanic that just makes things go nuts crazy right in the middle of a session?
Oh yeah, just on the you're landing on enemy planet's end. There is it's not likely, but there is a chance. Normally you're going to run into like enemies, squads or platoons, right? You know, somewhere between 5 and 40 guys, say.
Yeah.
But there is a chance you could run into a full company or more of enemies.
Yeah.
We've had that happen in playtesting, and it has been hilarious, in part because we had a group of players panic and then win.
Wow.
They killed
They just-
over 120 enemy combatants in
Oh,
actual
man.
play.
That's when the soldiers are like just high-fiving and hugging. I love you, man, after the fight.
I mean,
Yep.
it's the standard running around in the Death Star, and they go, and this room is full of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
You know, like
Han Solo running back through the hallway.
you're
Ah!
like, ah.
And then to answer your question, our company's name is Blackwall Games.
Blackwall
if you could
Games.
maybe put our website in the description or in
Yeah.
chat form.
If you so in StreamYard, there's like the comments, which is what you guys are watching. If you do private chat, if you put a link in there, I don't know if you have the ability to put links in the chat.
I know we can't, but I can
Okay.
put it in private
Yeah,
chat.
put it in the private. I'll copy and paste it out there so we can get people there.
But
Yeah.
for like dropship, like some of the big changes are, fun fact, we have guns in the future in modern age.
Yeah.
Like, how do that adds into like the Horde Wars formula?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, unlike in medieval fantasy, where most of the careers focused on like martial disciplines.
Mhm.
Like, I'm good with shields, I'm good. In our modern age or sci-fi, we tend to specialize, especially in the careers. So it's actually a much more skill-based grouping
Yeah.
Okay.
than say, you know, I'm good with shields blocking, which we have a lot of those same abilities, but just how they're expressed, like more in tech,
Mhm.
or how they can interact. Like, can they grab, protect their allies, or can you use it to basically stop an entire grenade going off?
Now,
Oh, I see.
yeah. So bearing in mind that this is in its playtest material state, which is to
Yeah.
say there will be random highlighted chunks, and this is not the final formatting. If you
Oh, are
want,
you
I
about
can
to
just
share?
look at a career or two if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me see about just sharing that here. Share screen. And I want to share this. And then I think I can zoom in a little bit.
I don't know which one is better. If we're like, actually, let me just do the full screen. All
There
right.
we go.
So we get the breacher.
So description here. There's an example of a place I still have to write a sentence or two.
Mhm.
Yes.
But have a read. Look at those starting abilities.
All right. Athletics, combat, +1 skill of your choice. Heavy armor proficiency. Double your athletic skill on skill checks made to force open doors and locks. Unyielding absorption. Each attack that would damage you in the first round of combat is absorbed by your armor instead. Okay. So you got like a heavy shock troop tank kind of guy.
Yep.
Havoc maneuver. When you make a ranged attack, you may use Havoc to deal an additional die of damage. This guy's pretty boss, actually.
Well, I mean, he's the breacher, so he's
Yeah.
supposed to bust through the door and
Combat axe, tactical
fight
shotgun,
whatever. Yeah, combat axe, tactical shotgun.
mild painkillers.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Breaching ram.
And so this guy, his job is to kick in the door and clear a room.
Yeah. So even with all of that, like that's probably not a super long battlefield lifespan if you're the first one in, right? Like,
No.
Better win fast. But here's the thing. So this uses the same core mechanics as Horde Wars with one major exception, which is durable objects are treated differently because durability would be different in the future because you've got high explosives and energy weapons, unlike the Middle Ages where you're relying on like a trebuchet to break a wall or a battering ram.
yeah.
But other than that, it uses the same mechanics. It uses the same kind of ideas for how a career is written, that you get 2 careers for the player characters. The NPCs generally will have 1. But let me jump over to another one. Now, there are 24 careers for this game. There's 21 in Horde Wars Advanced.
Yeah. Okay, so this is even bigger
This
as
is
far
bigger.
as your options.
Yeah. Now, do you want to glance at the capstones for this one first?
Sure.
All right. Let me quick go down to that.
Again, with the caveat that this is possible to change. You guys are getting a peek behind the curtain here. You hoid it here foist, people. All right, show me the capstone.
There you go.
So over the side, take point maneuver, extra action 1 time per day. You can immediately move up your land speed and make a ranged weapon attack. In addition, you may take an additional action on each of your turns for the next 1d4 rounds. Oh, okay. So that's like, depending on how that d4 goes, that could be really, like that dude's just going ham.
Yeah.
And then sharpshooter, crack shot, 1 time per day per tier. You can make 2 ranged weapon attacks, and they deal 3 extra dice of damage. Okay, cool. So
then,
something to work toward.
Yeah, and then by type, is there something else you'd like to look at, or Nate, that you want me to jump to? Because there's a lot of careers that we could look at.
Yeah, if Dundemir says I have her there.
So, for example, like by broad category, a fighter pilot, a dude in power armor, a space wizard type dude. Like, what do you want to see, Dundermoose?
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, let's do the pilot. Let's do Luke.
All right. So here is the ace, and this is I've begun writing his description, but we'll get out off of that and look here.
Yeah.
Do a barrel roll.
Well, here, give it a read just in case anyone who's listening who can't.
So yeah, for those that aren't watching the screen, those that are driving along, or you got us in your ear while you're doing some spreadsheeting at work. And thanks, by the way, for those that are. I love the folk that are here with us and can interact in the chat, but I also love the folk that are listening to us after the fact and said, you know what, I'm going to spend part of my day with these crazy cats making role-playing games and talking about them. So for the pilot, we have skills, intuition, starships, and +1 skill of your choice. And the first one is Maverick. Double your starship skill on skill checks made to avoid hazards and outmaneuver opponents. In addition, the first time each day that your starship would be reduced to 0 hit points, it is reduced to 1 hit point instead. That's pretty huge. I got a feeling that everybody inside of a starship is not happy if the starship they are inside of is reduced to 0 hit points.
Yeah,
no. It's very
that's
bad.
Like, yeah, that's the special edition Death Star with the firework and then the ring coming out. Barrel roll. Whenever your starship would be hit by an attack, you can use your barrel roll to make that attack miss instead. And strafe. When you make a starship weapon attack, you may use strafe to make an additional attack with it. Okay. So let me ask, if I'm not a pilot, but I somehow, well, let's say that while we were trying to escape, the pilot took a round and crumpled. We drag him on board, and someone who isn't a pilot has to fly. Are there rules for, like, do they just can't do it because they don't know how, or is there like a jury?
Does this person have starships training, the skill?
Yeah, it's just a skill. That's
because the skill would be the thing that lets you know if you can do it, if you're good at it.
So if I've got a breacher and a something else, I'm just better not grab the stick because you're just gonna fly it right into the bay doors.
No, you could just make sure you have starships training.
Okay.
Are you going to be the best pilot ever? No.
You're going to get your butt kicked by Maverick barrel roll strafe guy, but yeah.
But you might be able to beat another normal guy.
Yeah. Right. And that's kind of what we talked about, like the specialization, the careers really are focusing you on like this skill set. Like this is the ace pilot.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking if something happened to me and I had to run for my life and jump in a helicopter, like if the pilot got shot, I'm not going to be able to just sit in the seat and like know what button to push to even get it to start. No.
Yeah. Now there are other choices that would also be good pilots. They just wouldn't be good fighter pilots.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
So have a look at these 2 capstones for this guy, which are 2 very different plans for how he's going to fight. So they can be used together.
Remind me the capstone rules. Do you choose one when you get leveled up enough, or do you choose both, or are they each something that you can do?
When you get to character levels 5 and 9, you get to pick one of your available capstones, and there are usually 5 you can pick from. So eventually you'll get 2 of those 5.
Got it.
2 from each of your careers, 1 from your species.
So the Lone Wolf capstone says trench run, maneuver, pilot, 1 per day per tier. Make a single starship weapon attack. Any starship damaged by that attack loses half of its maximum hit points. Woo. Then your starship moves up to its sublight speed. That's pretty good.
Yeah, if you want to go kill the Death Star, you need this kind of effect.
And then for flight leader is the second capstone you could choose. Attack pattern, starship action, pilot once per day per tier. Make a starship weapon attack for each member of your flight. These attacks deal an extra die of damage. So this would be like having Luke and Han on the belly and dorsal gun while Chewie pilots it, and you could have all three of you
This is
shoot.
more like, do you remember how in we'll go with Star Wars. Do you remember how there are like red leader, blue leader, that kind of thing? So that's a flight leader of a group of usually 3 to 5 fighters.
Oh, okay.
In a
So
squadron.
you're like focus firing your whole squadron, saying like on my target,
your flight of 3 to 5 fighters, you're having all of them shoot,
and then everyone just lets him have it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
We have a super chat, the Ultra American TTRPG. Thank you for the $2, bro. He says, me sitting behind the pilot, do a barrel roll.
Yeah.
The backseat driver in the spaceship always makes it easier when you're trying to do combat and keep everyone alive.
Now let's try jumping a ways down to something a bit more. Let me see here. What would be? Oh, the Tech Knight's pretty fun actually. This is this is pretty fun. We wrote this after playing some Rifts actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, Rifts, man, there's quite an inspiration. Like that's everything, and the kitchen sink, and the kitchen sink's got some stuff. But
check this out, man. I think this is a really cool and interesting career.
Yeah, Ultra American says, good old Star Fox on my N64.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun.
So Tech Knight, skills, computers, powers, +1 skill of your choice. The first feature is called Plug and Play. You have heavy armor proficiency. In addition, double your computer skill on skill checks made to hack into an electronic device. Cleave, maneuver. When you make a melee weapon attack, you may use cleave to apply that attack against an additional target adjacent to the first target. Okay, cool. Cyber shield maneuver, absorption power. When you would be damaged by an attack, you may use cyber shield to absorb the damage instead. You know what? This one, this is probably way off, but I'm getting like a RoboCop vibe.
Yeah,
right. Like
definitely do that.
Heavy armor. He's got like the spike that he can put in the computer and start hacking.
Yep.
Bradford Walker says, Rifts, everything you wanted in a tabletop game when you were 10 years old.
Yep.
I want RoboCop riding a Velociraptor, dang it. And I want him to be able to walk on the sky lightning.
Do it.
So then the Tech Knight, when we get to the capstones, the first one is titled Cyber Slaughter. Whirlwind action, once per day per tier. Make 2 melee weapon attacks and apply them against any number of adjacent targets. That seems a little bit similar to what one of the guys did when I played Horde Wars with you guys.
Oh, definitely. Some of the abilities do make it into this game where appropriate.
Because I thought he was dead.
These are brand new.
He was surrounded by zombies, and I thought he was dead. And he was like,
he did hold the line.
As long as I'm defending you guys, as long as I'm holding the line, and he was just, it was pretty insane.
I think he's in chat. I think Flashbang. He was in chat earlier. That's that guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, Flash. Good to see you, bro.
Yep.
You saved our bacon that day. Okay. Capstone Tech Wizard. When you use Cyber Shield, gain an explosive attack. It absorbs all damage that would be dealt to any target. So you just like.
So you absorb, like say a grenade goes off and would have hit you. Mm-hmm. With the baseline ability, you could prevent it from hurting you, but everyone else would get hit by the explosion. This actually lets you absorb the entire blast.
Yeah.
Protecting
so
everyone.
Like one, I'm picturing kind of like you put a bubble shield over yourself.
Yeah.
And the shrapnel hits the shield. And this one is like you put the bubble over the grenade itself. And it just kind of clumps inside there. Nice. And then kinetic barrier action. Select a 3 combat space diameter sphere within short range. For the next 1d4 rounds, a bubble of force surrounds that area, absorbing attacks and blocking movement. Kinetic barrier can also be used to form a bridge, ramp, staircase, or wall up to 4 combat spaces high and 6 combat spaces long. Now that one's interesting to me because it's not just a shield, but you've put utility in there. It's like you can run up this thing, you can slide off it, or use it to like jump across a chasm. You just like do a
Oh yeah,
bounce off
this guy can make hard light force fields essentially for short
Right
periods
on.
of time.
Yep. And then they can even trap an opponent in there going, we're not going to deal with you for a minute, or
Yeah.
hey, the VIP needs to not die, so this
Yeah.
will protect them.
We're
for
gonna
a
put him in
moment.
timeout for a minute. We got 1 to 4 rounds where we don't have to worry.
Yep.
Now let's look at a couple pieces of artwork as well.
Who's doing the art for this? I mean, so in the original posting, which I know we're not streaming to the original post, and thank you guys for following us over here as I fumble with the tech. But I got you shared with me some pretty cool art. Like we had like an APC looking almost like a GI Joe Jeep with a gun on the top. We had the dude with the skin suit armor, and
I figured we'd look at those, and then
Yeah.
also do try and change this one's thumbnail to that because that was a cool thumbnail.
Yeah. I will. Yeah, I still have that, so I will definitely be doing that. But I have not seen this one yet, where she's like dealing with 3 different screens in her coffee.
Yeah. Yep. I think this is pretty cool.
Is this representative of one of the classes? Or
Yes.
one of the subclasses?
This one I think is the technician.
Okay.
Or it was drawn to represent the computer's skill.
I think it's a computer. Yeah.
Computer skill. All right.
Yeah. And then here is this is going to be a larger piece, so I got to.
This one was kind of faint. I had it in the background, kind of. So you might not have got all the detail on this in my thumbnail.
Yeah, this is supposed to be much larger, essentially, than it's displaying right now. But this is a view of the that corporate tax haven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that planet that's just there for the offshore accounts.
Yes, the big city where they hide the money. And then I showed you this one.
Yeah, this guy.
This is a heavy worlder. I think our artist went with a Russian look. Each of our kind of subtypes of human, I guess you could say, like a heavy worlder or a belter type human.
Yeah.
There's a couple others.
I like how like everything from the waist up is like skin tight and high tech, and then he's just wearing a pair of sweatpants over it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Welcome to the future.
Yep.
Yeah. Each of them basically has 2 dominant human like real life countries that are like settled those kinds of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy is dressed up in full nearly full winter kit.
Yeah.
Here's that vehicle.
Kind of reminds me of GI Joe. I had a Jeep that had a little gun on the back of it, and you could like pull the little tab, and the cannons would go.
Oh yeah, we sent him a piece of reference art that was basically that. Actually, to go, we want this in action like you would see in. Yeah.
Because even like that's a sci-fi. We have guns and we know roughly how they should look.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can vary some things and make the futuristic part, but like a Humvee, we know what a Humvee looks like.
Yeah, and a gun should read as a gun.
Yep.
Yeah. And now this is a draft. This is not the final version. This is a draft of what will be a piece of full page art in the book.
Okay.
And so there should be a few other like bullets or grenades.
Is that like some kind of launcher just leaned up against the locker there?
Yeah. And there's a gun here as well. But this is meant to be a facing page with our firearms, where you're basically like looking into a locker room with an ad to buy guns.
Targeted advertising even exists when humanity is on the brink.
Yes.
That's very much in line with our setting.
Yes, and we've tried to do what we can to tie in. Let me see if I can get it to show it to you. Yeah, here we go.
Oh man, yeah, I love this. This looks so good.
Yeah, I think I like this logo. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, with the color too.
Yeah. But what I wanted to show you, not all of these ones will make it in the book, but we're actually working on like corporations with their own logos in the setting. Right on. And their own kind of lore and agenda and that kind of stuff. And And so these are some corporate logos with different color schemes.
If you played Pathfinder Society in the old era where you had factions,
Mm-hmm.
you can almost pick one of these as your faction, and they'll have missions in the game for you.
Cool. And are they rivals or are they?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes like two are working together on a project.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they are definitely rivals. But that just gives you kind of an idea.
It might be Team Faust already. I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Let me sign the
If you
deal.
want, you can jump back to the normal cameras.
The bargains.
There you go. But just to give you an idea, so we are actively working on that. We have the main artist for Horde Wars Basic, and one of the kind of two main artists for Horde Wars Advanced is who's working on this project with us.
Cool. Well, I mean, let me grab my Basic. There is some just iconic pieces in there. I love the big Goblin King.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
same artist.
Same artist, yes.
Are you going to print it the same way? Because like these, I mean, full color throughout the book. Like a lot of RPG products, you'll get a glorious cover, and then the inside is just all black and white. But you guys, you did not do that on even the basic version of Horde Wars. Now,
no, our intent is to do it color printing.
If you played the basic version of Axe, if you've looked in the monsters, they're all silhouettes. Like he doesn't even have. I'm expecting in my poplar slipcase to be blown away, but like I was blown away that like this is the basic version of the game, and it just looks good throughout. So I'm excited about what's coming with the art and dropship.
Good. Now our hope is to have a roughly equivalent amount of art to what we've put in Horde Wars Advanced. The book will be a similar length. There's going to be a different focus, of course, as this game is less about finding treasure.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be some stuff like alien artifacts and technology to find, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is this kind of existential threat, winning this war against the aliens and not getting wiped out or enslaved or what have you.
I got to tell you, man, like that is the vibe I'm on right now. Like I bought a Humble Bundle, which those people are awful and they take all my money. But this one was for XCOM and it had every version of the game. And
nice.
The one that I'm hooked on is the one that I had on my Gateway 3000 computer when I was a kid back in the 90s. It's the XCOM UFO Defense, the very first game.
Oh, that's great.
It starts off that way where it's like, well, here's another thing I like about it is it's got little action segments and then it's got downtime, right? Now it's not 1-to-1 downtime or the game you'd never beat it, but like you can speed it up and make things go by 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 minutes, an hour, a day at a time. And then your research pays off and stuff. But like that vibe of crap, humanity's up against it. There's enemies on every side. Even our own factions, our own corporations aren't all working together. How do you thread the needle? How do we save the species? Or at least how do I save myself and my friends? And how do I learn enough to keep advancing and be able to get, end or at least lessen some of the threats that we're facing? And this just seems very compelling to me right now. I don't know if I've been primed by my hours of playing XCOM or what, but
I've been playing a slightly later version of XCOM recently as well.
Oh well, yeah. The re-release was awesome. The re-release, like the one thing that the old one is missing that the re-release had was the little cut scenes. Like when you capture one of the aliens alive, and then you interrogate him, and you see him putting his hand up on the glass, and then the door shuts, and you're like, oh, he go talk soon, one way or the other. I'm either going to learn it from talking to him or I'm going to learn it from dissecting his corpse. Anyway, not to go off too far off topic, but I feel like there's a lot that could be done here, depending on what mind space the DM is in and what kind of thing they want to run.
Mm-hmm. And our intent is to give you the rules to be able to play other kinds of sci-fi, you don't have to stick with our setting.
Mhm.
Obviously, we'd encourage you to do so when you try the product, because
Yeah.
there's stuff written for that. But it shouldn't be hard to hack and put in your own setting material. One big difference, though, between ours and like Star Trek, for example,
Mhm.
or Farscape for that matter, is this is very human centric as far as players go.
Yeah.
You're going to be a human. The question is, from what kind of planet? Are you from
Yeah.
from Earth, or an Earth-like planet, or are you from one of these other more exotic planets that humans have been inhabiting for a while now and gaining the up and downsides of those
Yeah. You
of
may
that
not
world?
look typical for what we expect humans to be.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Bradford says, I fully expect big brand IP adaptation to be done.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing though about the indie games. Like I'm thinking about Shadow Dark and like all the stuff that BLG and Chubby Funster are doing, where it's like, or even Mothership. There's like a riff on Mothership that is completely different vibe using the same rules. I can't remember what it's called right now. Um, but I think it's cool that you guys are open to that. You're like, okay, we're putting together the tools for you. It comes with a setting and a scenario, so go ahead and play with that, plumb the depths of it. But you're open to other people playing in the sandbox and coming up with stuff. Yeah, is that a
Yeah.
stretch?
No, that's quite correct.
Third
Um,
party?
well, we would, if third parties wanna publish, we would want them to work with us. But
Yeah.
beyond that, yeah, we're quite open to it.
Mhm.
The carrot we can offer is that we do own our own artwork. So if you do a product that we're on board with, we can actually license that artwork to you for that product, and then
Cool.
that's cheaper for you to make. But we are a small game company, right? Just
Hmm.
two or three of us usually working on a product. And so Nate and I are the only owners, and then we'll get a contractor to do
So
certain
if
things.
someone got like super inspired and was like, "Man, I want to be working on something right now, so that when Dropship comes out, I want to have something out soon on the heels of that." What do you think would be the best product? Would you prefer to like someone that's like, "Well, I like to build classes and I want to do subclass stuff," or would you like, "I want to just write an adventure for the existing setting," or "I want to write my own setting for it"? Like what kind
Yeah.
of stuff are you like, "Man, I hope somebody takes this and runs with it." And
Well, I would hope either unless they're like actively involved in playtesting with us, which is an option.
Mhm.
I would encourage them to work on some material for Horde Wars. We do
Yeah,
have
yeah.
some stuff we're working on coming out, and that will give them practice in the game system. And then they'll have a full rule book to consult to help with their content.
Right
And
on.
then if they want to do sci-fi, once that comes out, or if they're involved in the active playtesting, yeah, we're hoping that people are up for putting out their own stuff. We want to be careful to protect our brand. We don't want
Yeah,
like
That
pornography or other weird things coming out with our logo, or the implication that we're
yeah, you
associated
don't
with
wanna
it.
dilute you don't wanna dilute
yeah.
what makes it special and
Yeah.
get associated with, stuff that you don't support. I understand that for sure.
Now in the long run, if our games are successful and our company grows, there will probably come a point when we'll just do an open license. But
Okay.
at this point, where it's just a couple of us,
Yeah, just at the very beginning, totally
it's
understand that. Yeah.
I don't want the only time someone has heard of Horde Wars or has heard of Dropship or heard of Blackwall Games to be like some weird black exploitation mod that
Yeah,
some random dude made. It's
or
like,
like
no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. I mean, like I read in the news, I think yesterday, Paradox is redoing White Wolf games, like bringing it
Okay.
back. It's one of those like, okay, I might have heard of that way back when,
Mhm.
but
But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good RPGs out there. There's a lot of good RPG products, but there's also a lot of actual junk, either
Yeah.
badly
Well,
designed
yeah, we
or
were
that is
talking about
or
that.
that is morally evil.
Yeah. Well, we
Like,
were talking about stuff that people just like pump out on DTRPG and they've never play tested it. And then
Yeah.
Bradford Walker just posted, "We get it. You don't want Kanye making stuff for Drop."
That is correct. We do not want Kanye making stuff.
Yeah. All right. So let me just kind of reel my words back in because so Bradford, I've been following him for a while now, and like you guys got to check out his blog, but he talks about the clubhouse. The idea that like local gaming is where it's going to be at. We don't know what's going to happen in the future with WotC and Hasbro and all of that kind of stuff. But if you cultivate a group of people that you trust, that you work well with, that you know that you're on the same page, you're going to have a better time with them. And so I think if you are someone who's like, I want to play in their sandbox, I think that's the best way is start making stuff for Horde Wars now. Get to know these guys and be known by them, and make sure your values align, make sure that your game sensibilities align, and then maybe we can dream about stuff down the road. But you got products right now that you're supporting, that stuff's coming out for, that you're running at conventions, and so now's the time to start building those relationships and building that trust.
Yeah.
Did I dig myself out of the hole that I
Yeah, no, that's
I just
about right.
jumped in with
That's
both
about right.
feet? All right, cool.
Like for example, I have been I've been looking for someone to do about 3 pieces for us for a module.
Okay.
That we'd like to do, kind of a dungeon delve supplement for Horde Wars that people could buy. But I got to hear back from that artist, and if he's not interested, I'm gonna have to find somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure it's a reasonable price, because any kind of module is going to be, as TSR checked, often a money pit.
Yeah.
Oh.
You want to make it really lean as far as production costs go, to make it potentially break even or turn a profit. But it's good to put that kind of stuff out, I think, to support existing games. Nothing new on the player facing side. More new treasure, new monster variants, an interesting location to adventure in. But the goal is, for Horde Wars and for Dropship as well, is to have everything you need to play for the player in that one volume, and everything you need for the game master to run the game in that one volume. And any supplemental book is just that, a supplement you don't need.
Yeah.
But if you want, we could sell.
I love that, man. I got my start with D6 West End Star Wars games.
Oh yeah, I've played that.
And I remember, like, I had 3 books, and I read 2 of them. I had the rule book, I had the source book, and then I had the Imperial source book. But the Imperial source book was boring because it just got into like military hierarchy and stuff like that, right? So I just grabbed the spaceships out of that one. And in the back of the rule book, there was like a sample adventure for you to go on to get people into the rebellion. And then there was just like a page of like these little 1-column idea starters for other adventures you could do.
Yeah.
And that's just what I did. I ran the first one, and then I ran my buddies through those ideas. And that just got me into writing my own stuff and just having things happen, and like being, I was young, so I don't know where I fit on the sandbox to railroad continuum, but it was more like just a bunch of cool stuff was hanging around, and people could go wherever they want and like deal with it. And I remember when I walked into Ryder's Hobby Shop in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I saw a bunch of adventures for Star Wars, and I was so weirded out. I was like, I got to read this whole book and then like memorize what happened. Like, it was weird to me because it seemed natural to make up your own stuff, and weird to like try to run somebody else's stuff. It's almost like trying to deliver somebody else's PowerPoint, like,
sure.
It's just never
so to
going to
clarify, I don't mean what those are like, which would be equivalent to like a Pathfinder adventure path. Because that, I agree.
I'm not a Pathfinder guy, never played it.
But what you're describing, those were like a series of like interconnected events that kind of make a story, or various locations that make a story. That's not the intent. The intent is,
those ones famously had like a script at the beginning that you would read, that like, okay, everyone, you're number 2, you're number 3, and then like everyone has to read the script. It was like,
now that our intent is to go, here's a cool place to go adventure. and maybe some unique traps, unique monsters, treasure that you can only find here because it's a unique item that only exists in one place in the world, and that's where it is right
but
now.
if they buy the book, they got what they need. They got everything they need. They could play for years on just the book.
Yeah,
I identify with that because that's how I got my start. You know.
Yeah, and we want to do that.
Nothing to take away from adventures. I'm just like remembering back to when I started. It felt like that's how it should be, and I was weirded out that there was more to it. Right?
Or even like in Horde Wars Advanced, I forgot how many like little third page, quarter page adventures we had.
Yeah. So you could fit it on the 3x5 card.
I think.
Oh yeah,
43.
Like yeah. Like the little idea of like, hey, you know, we had maybe 3 per nation in Horde Wars. But at least to get you go, okay, here's kind of what's going on with that area.
And it tells new game masters, this is all you need.
Yeah.
You don't need to draw a beautiful map. You don't need to come up with new creatures and weapons. All you need is like, hey, wouldn't this be cool? What would that mean for your players? And then it's like, we're off to the races.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and we tried to also show that there were other kinds of adventures than only killing things.
Yeah.
That is obviously a theme, but there's like a political adventure or two. There's a slave ship that has a problem with like permits, and you have the opportunity to potentially free the slaves, steal the ship, get yourself kidnapped and sold to some orcs. Who knows how it will go?
Well, I'm interested in the permit process.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing my bureaucrat.
No. Well, there are two like merchants who are basically tying this ship up so it can't leave port because they want the cargo. And so the players are in a position where they can interact with this or just ignore it. They don't have to do anything about it. But it could result in combat. It could result in a cool ship that you acquire. You could free some slaves if that's something you're interested in, or for that matter, you could make a bunch of evil Dracaran merchants like you.
Or you could say, I will kill the other guy and let you have your way, but I get 3 of the slaves.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff you could do.
I'm just kidding. We're gonna get crap for that one.
No, that's an option.
Even when you're in the orc lands, you're in the orc lands.
Yeah.
Like, do you go orc or you know, like.
Well, they won't respect me if I don't have as many slaves as they do.
Yeah. No, we do.
I can make believe people.
Of course. But you know, this is reality. Almost every human culture at one point or another did enslave others, and so we have a few cultures in Horde Wars that do that, which is what you'd expect. And the exception is the chunk that is analogous to medieval Europe. And that's because, broadly speaking, slavery was illegal in medieval Europe.
Yeah.
Why? Well, the answer is because of Christianity, actually.
And that's what ended it here on this continent and spread it around the world to places that didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I mean, heaven, yeah. What are we talking about? What are we doing?
So no, with dropship though. We do have rules for firearms, explosives, rocket launchers, flamethrowers.
What happens in the Orklands stays in the Orklands. Your trumpet has been struck by lightning. Yeah, good save, Dunder. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm gonna cancel myself one of these times.
But we have a lot of the like personal combat gear you'd expect. But what I was alluding to earlier, 20 minutes ago or so, when I was talking about the 2 kind of major exceptions to kind of you could do your own thing with dropship, one of which is we're very human centric. We might include a few sidebars to explain how you would make a few of the aliens playable, but that's not really the intent. That might just be if we have space.
You'd have to have like a Jar Jar. You'd have to have like somebody that was outcast by their own people.
Yes.
Or like they were like found as an infant and raised by humans, like the Worf thing or something that.
We have 4 different backstories that we've previously written and tested that would explain why, and that is one of them. why that would be appropriate. And then also we've play tested, I think, 6 or 7 of these as playable species. Like, it's not, we've tried it out. We just found that the game tended to play better when most of the players were humans.
Yeah.
Because you're humans, our customers. You're all humans.
I gotta
and easy
say,
to unite you on the side of humans.
Maybe it's just because I'm an old school guy. I like the aliens being weird and threatening.
Yeah.
I don't like I remember picking up an adventure on drive-through a while ago, and it talked about how you go into town and the mayor of the town was an orc. Like, not even a half orc, like a full orc was the mayor of the town. And I was like, oh crap, they've been overrun. But then I kept reading. It was like, oh, no, she's nice. And she was duly elected.
Yeah.
And it was just so weird to me. And I was like, oh, okay. 5e is the main, everybody wants, and it just, I feel like I'm sick of the Mos Eisley Cantina being the good guys. I want to be weirded out by the alien and strange. I want it to be all humans. I like that there are aliens. Like, I think some of the sci-fi go too far where they're like, it's only humans and that's all that exists in the galaxy. I'm like, that might not be as interesting. Right. But like, did you ever watch what was it called? Space Above and Beyond? Where it was
I knew of it.
Such a good sci-fi channel show where they were basically fighter pilots trying to stave off an alien invasion, and like, so there were aliens, but you couldn't communicate with them. Whenever we tried, it went horribly wrong. Like, they just seemed to want to kill us, and that was it. So it's like, I liked having the strange in there, but I didn't want to see the alien walking around as a misunderstood person who needed to rise up and claim their power.
That's not the game. But to quickly mention it though, the second exception is this: modern firearms, or futuristic versions of modern firearms, are not weaker exactly than energy weapons. They are simply, they're better at certain jobs and worse at others, which is very different from, say, Star Trek, where conventional firearms are basically entirely obsolete.
Which is weird because nobody in Star Trek has any armor. Like, they're all just wearing spandex.
Yeah.
Like,
they do have an episode or two where someone actually uses a normal handgun and it's fine because no one's ready for it. But that said, so that is a difference.
Dude with an AK could wreck the whole bridge of the Next Generation Star Trek.
Yeah. Yep. But that's so that is maybe different. That's more like Starship Troopers or Aliens in that regard. Like, the tech is more like that. And then to answer Tag, was it Tag's question?
Tag asks, I missed the start of the stream. I assume this is a more grounded sci-fi, not gonzo sci-fi.
Correct.
Yeah, Bradford says, gotta have filthy Xenos to Daka.
Yeah. And we do differentiate a little bit between humanoid aliens who are like humans in some way, and genuinely monstrous aliens that are like space demons, or just straight up insects that will eat you and overrun the planet. Like
the Thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Unlike in Horde Wars, where pretty much the humanoids were all characters, this one, it very much depends on what level character is that. Like, how close or far off.
So the average party, like, starting off, first thing, you roll up your characters. Are you like in Star Wars, it was, you were all in the rebellion, right? And so it was like, you got sent on missions. How do I get my players on a dropship to land and fight the bugs in Klendathu?
Yeah. So what we do encourage the players to make 2 characters actually for this game.
Okay.
In part because we do expect your characters to die sometimes.
I love it. I love it so much.
And in part because we want you to be functional, or have a character who can be functional in different situations. Like, you're going to need a different skill set to go on a stealth mission in the jungle as a sniper, as compared to being a fighter pilot, or as compared to, I don't know, blowing up enemy tanks with
Yeah.
your rocket launcher. Like they're
I'm
not
just
the
picturing
same
the
skills.
breacher stomping through a swamp trying to stay
Yeah.
hidden. It's like, nope, not
Yeah.
that guy. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we encourage them to make a couple characters, but then each character, in fact, I'll just let me see here. Can I?
While you're doing that, I got another super chat. Thank you. My ear trumpet has been struck by lightning for the $5 dues. He says Space Above and Beyond was great. The pilot had R. Lee Emery going full metal jacket drill instructor. Awesome. I don't remember that episode, but I just remember loving it when I was younger.
Now, I just am
And
screen sharing with you now.
okay, I just got one more. Bradford Walker says, or as Mike Pondsmith said in the 1980s, there's a difference between the alien waifus and the designated targets.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So this is highlighted. Now, the reason this is highlighted blue is to let Nate and our active playtesters know that something has changed, which is I rewrote that section.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And then green is this is correct, but I have to make sure the words match in another spot.
Gotcha.
But if you see what it says, unless otherwise noted, each player character starts as a private in the IEF Marines or a crewman second class in the IEF Navy.
Okay.
A Marine officer begins play as a lieutenant in the IEF Marines instead, while a bridge officer begins play as an ensign in the IEF Navy. There's one other exception, which is if you play an ace, you're in the Starfighter Corps, which we don't mention here because it says it in his career.
Yeah.
But basically, you are in the military.
Okay.
And in fact, if we scroll up here in the character creation process, we added step 9, which is calculate your rank.
Right on. So that's kind of like how Traveler does character creation, in that they've got the 4 branches of military, but then they've also got, I forget what they call it, the Merchant Marine.
Yeah.
They got the scouts, they got the 4 branches, and then they got like the pirates and stuff.
And then here is that. Here is the ranks.
Okay. I like the idea that like you don't have the luxury of remaining a civilian. When humanity is beset on all sides, everyone's got to do their I'm doing my part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Michael Dale, $5. Thank you, bro. Asking the hard questions. Did you figure out how to assemble your combat wheel? Show receipts. Good question, Michael. I got my combat wheel right here. It is in an unassembled state, but I did cut out all the little windows.
Oh no.
The most sensible thing to do would be just to use those brass tacks that like fold out. I don't know why my brain just did not grab onto the fact that those make a square and I want something round. So my best option of what I have for free would be to get one of those little lapel pins and just put the backer through it.
Why don't you turn on the camera so he can see it? There you go.
Oh. Was I just holding that up for? I'm such a doof. I'm gonna get good at YouTube one day. Here's my combat wheel, and you see the little cutaway windows. Mm-hmm. It's got a circle there. It's got one there, and then there's like stuff on the back. I have been
had a more simple version of that years ago.
Yeah, I've been staring. There's on Amazon. There is a 1/4-inch grommet eyelet set that you can set with a post for like $7.99. I don't know where it's coming from, but like I'm like, do I really want to? And it comes with like 120 grommets, and I'm going to use one. But I'm like, for $8, I could have this thing rotating real smooth. So yeah. I hope I don't cave and buy that, but that's probably what's going to happen. Thanks for the $5, and maybe I'll use some of that money to buy the grommets and show them off. Appreciate it, bro.
A couple of the other questions. We will probably include roughly a 1/4 to half page going, hey, if you want to play civilians, here's a way to do that. But it isn't really the intent of the game.
Yeah.
But the rules will be there if you wish to play a civilian. You just need to be finding a way to earn money that isn't getting paid by the military and isn't killing aliens and taking their stuff.
Is that the question you were answering? Cell Socks asked, is there anything like a rogue trader or spy who might be allowed in some alien societies only to subvert them? I feel like you'd need some heavy surgery to pass as an alien.
Our agent is capable of passing as a humanoid alien.
Okay.
He can't pass as something that isn't physically our shape.
Yeah.
but he can pass as a humanoid alien.
All right, and then Tag for $10. Thank you so much, bro. Says you separated enlisted from officers. Literally the best sci-fi game ever written. Something so simple that every single game messes up. 10 out of 10.
Thank
Right
you,
on, man.
Yeah, we tried to be strategic with how we did the ranks, because broadly speaking, someone can only remember about 5 things of a given category without like effort.
Yeah.
And so each of the enlisted and the officer ranks are generally a group of 5 or 6 ranks, because you don't have to remember your rank.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember the other ones.
Yeah.
Of your
Like, do I salute to them or did they salute to me?
Yeah, exactly. Who's getting whose coffee right now?
Yes.
Right on. That's pretty awesome.
And then we get to play the Starship Troopers, like, who's in charge at what spot of the ship?
Mm-hmm. You're it until you're dead, or I find somebody better, right?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And we tried to make it so the space combat, other than some stuff like to make it like you're in space, plays a lot like the character combat, where the starships are acting like you're controlling like a monster stat block, essentially, where you're getting your turns and you can essentially use your action to have the starship take one of its actions. So you can like man the guns, or if you're the pilot, move the ship, or use the sensors to do different things, or try to jam enemy comms, or
how
bring
early
power
on
to
in
the
the
shields,
design process did you hit that, where you're like, okay, we need to figure out how the spaceships are going to work and how do we make it as similar to the rest of the combat? Was that like first things, or was that like halfway through you're like, oh crap?
No, we developed that first, actually, before we got the character combat more nailed down, which was really funny.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we had a pretty solid space combat system before we had all the character abilities nailed down for the game. And we had a battle of, I don't know, it was probably about 30 to 50 ships with seven players, I think, or maybe 6 plus a game master. And we got the battle over in like a couple hours. It was fun.
That's impressive.
Hey
man, you guys are gonna be just fine at the tabletop war game convention. If you could say, yeah, you want 30 ships, you want 2 hours, 7 players, we got it.
Well, that might be the following year if this year goes okay.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, come play this with us.
Cool. So can people upgrade their ships and that does it progress in the same way that characters do?
Not in the same way, but you can like you can install different modules to modify your ship.
Okay.
And then the characters, by progressing, if they're good at controlling and commanding ships, they will be better at making the ship better as well.
Got it. Cellstocks asks, McCrease has mentioned that all the players on one ship make every fight potentially a win or a TPK. How do you grapple with that issue? It is a community joined by fate, right?
Yeah, it can be. Well, you should be, if possible, attempting to maximize your fighting potential, right? Like in general, in a fight. So the ships, by design, urge the players to make better choices, because the ships have a limited number of actions they can take based on their size category. So even if you have 5 players all jammed onto a class 2 ship, it's only going to get 2 actions. But you've got 5 characters worth of actions. Maybe you should get in another ship and bring the fight to the enemy.
My action is I get in the escape pod just in case.
or maybe you should try to board the enemy ship, hop in a drop ship, and get on their ship. And then you're going to be more effective. So
that's some piracy right there. Inject into the other. There's some Space Hulk, right? Get your breacher out. He's gonna pop a hole in the airlock, and in we go.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we are not ignoring it. I would estimate that about a third of all of the combat should be in spaceships.
Yes.
All right. A third of the combat is going to be this space naval. Okay. Cool. So you definitely want somebody in your party to pick that pilot as one of their subclasses, if not multiple.
Or one of the other viable.
There's other
pilots.
ones. I hate to say the engineer and the technician are probably someone you're gonna want on any ship.
Oh, okay.
Like, they are force multipliers.
Yeah.
If you've ever
So
seen
is
them.
bridge
Scotty.
officer,
And bridge
especially
officer.
especially in charge of a group of ships.
Yeah.
But he's pretty good on a ship on his own. But we found that just with that rule of the limited number of actions, that the players themselves will try to fix the all of our eggs in one basket problem.
Yeah. They'll realize it. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
All it takes is losing one ship. Where if you've got two characters and one of them, everybody loses a character, then it's like, hey, maybe we should. I mean,
there's been plenty of times they went, you know what? I think we're just going to get in that dropship and we're just going to board that ship and just take out their crew because
Yeah.
it might be faster because we're like, we could chunk through its hit points or we could just capture it.
Well, and if you blow up the enemy ship, how are you going to get its treasure?
Right on.
Yes.
Well, and as Bradford says, salvage man, somebody's got to clean up the messes.
That's actually the next we're working on.
Right
Yeah. That's on my list of stuff to rewrite. I did just rewrite Nate, the ship graveyard and the cosmic debris ones. And what did Tag write?
So Tag says, we were just arguing about this on Earth, and he's referring to the Living Earth Discord. Things like 40K are so epic in scope, you lose the trees for the forest. How are you scaling space?
Okay. A few ways. So Nate's a physicist, and to prepare to write this game originally, I listened to 2 full astronomy classes from, I think it was Harvard and Yale.
Wow.
Just listen to the lectures.
You guys are committed to this.
Yeah.
So
in one game, I actually pulled out, here's the star map of our local system where the stars actually are relative.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we did some research, but one of the ways we're doing that is natural, like real world terminology, things like astronomical unit, which is the distance from the Earth to the sun on average, or things like a light year, or what we more commonly use, a parsec.
Okay.
Which is basically 3.5 light years. It's also 1/100th of a degree, on a side note. But yeah, so that is, we try to use some of that terminology, because then if you don't know what that means, you can literally type it in any search engine, and you'll find out pretty much immediately. And we mean essentially what it means, though we usually round the number, so it's a little less annoying to work with. And then when it comes to combat, we're using combat spaces or combat hexes like we do for Horde Wars. However, at the starship scale, one combat space is 2,000 miles on a side.
Okay.
Which would mean that 90 combat spaces is 1 light second.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Because you also have to remember the continent of Australia is actually wider than the moon is, like on Earth.
Interesting.
So that was a weird comparison I saw today.
It is. I love it.
And,
I love it so much.
And so that's why, like, 2,000 combat squares on a side or whatever, like, yeah, because you have to think of it that way. But even like in the, I think maybe what they're going to is like the scaling, we are kind of assuming in the setting, like humanity had maybe 100-ish colonies before the aliens decided, you know what, these monkey people, we just take their land.
Monkey.
So in some ways, yeah, we're gonna have like, you know, millions and billions of people maybe, but it's one of those, humanity's losing. Like,
yeah,
we haven't picked an exact number, but like there was 100 some colonies,
and now they're down to like a dozen.
Yeah. Bradford
and so like
says,
when you lose a planet, it's bad.
Yeah. Bradford says 90 spaces to a light second. I can run Legends of the Galactic Heroes space fleet battles indoors.
Yes. Hopefully on a
Um,
small map as a table.
Yeah.
I want to get back to a question Cellsox has. He says, Horde Wars allows for kingdoms in warfare, Chapter 8. Is there an equivalent, such as a colonial governor, a space station commander, or something like that in Dropship?
I think, yeah, there is, but the question will be the level of granularity.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've tried out some stuff with that, but I have to rewrite that because it's too granular what we had before. It's
Okay.
too specific as to what it lets you do. We need it to be a little more general.
Tag says, can you add rules for me to use my protractor, or is it written for normies?
No. So, yeah. So one of the things, there are certain things that we have hard coded into the rules that might make you ask some questions if you are used to normal physics.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things is that we are not distinguishing between turret and fixed point weapons. And the reason for that is because unlike in an atmospheric combat where you're with fighters and stuff, right, or bombers and whatnot, a spacecraft meant for combat should be fully capable of turning around and firing behind it while continuing in the direction it was just traveling. There is absolutely no reason, if you were a competent engineer, that your spacecraft could not do that. So we are assuming that they have competent engineers.
Yeah.
Rather
the
than
whole ship is
distinguishing
kind
between
of a
those.
three-dimensional turret in that aspect, right? Like,
yeah,
it is a pivot point.
Yeah. Unlike, say, Star Wars, where they are, and Star Trek to a degree, where they're kind of not maneuvering in that way. Something like The Expanse, they are maneuvering in that way. Just to give you a kind of a contrast, we are assuming competent engineering, like in The Expanse, rather than ships and planes.
Yeah, tag 1080 says every time a Star Fury spins and shoots in B5, I cheer. I was thinking of the last Starfighter when they shoot.
That is also one of the influences, and especially
when they
one
do
of our careers.
the Death Blossom, or what do they call it? I can't remember.
We do have an ability called the Death Blossom on as a capstone on.
Is
one
that
of
what
the
they call it? The bloomin' onion something? Yeah,
that's
anyway,
great.
Just
I mean,
shoot.
we're still looking from Babylon 5 reference of the Bonehead maneuver.
I never watched Babylon 5. I'm like at a loss here. I'm like,
they try to use their jump when they go through like a jump gate thing.
Oh man.
So
Brian points out, yet the moon is 4.9 times that of Australia.
Yeah, surface area, yes.
No doubt they will need to build an alien-proof fence across the moon.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh, shame on Dunder. B5 is a masterpiece. Yep. So I've been adequately shamed on two fronts. The first one being my bald spot. If you missed that, you can catch it earlier in the episode. And now I'm shamed on my lack of B5 knowledge. Yeah, I have no excuse.
Yeah. And Cellsox is quite correct. That is what they were doing. But we do not mean that World War II style of combat.
Yeah, it's not the dogfight.
I mean, you could still be in a dogfight. You just wouldn't fly that the way they do.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, Traveler also does really distinguish between fixed point and turreted weapons. Because again, it's not assuming your ship has thrusters all over it to like actually let it flip and spin and reorient while traveling. And are you bringing back space telekinesis? We do have some space telekinesis. To answer your question, we have the Tech Knight, who is really using technology to do it. We have the Scion, which is SCION, as in descended from someone in particular, who's kind of a space wizard. And then we have a kind of mentalist who's part of the PsyOps Corps, kind of like Neil Patrick Harris's character in Starship Troopers.
Okay, yeah.
So we've got three kind of what you're alluding to, guys.
Yeah. Definitely space magic light. I will say.
Yeah.
So in XCOM UFO defense, if you interrogate enough of a certain type of alien and you dissect enough of them, you can test your guys for psychic powers, and you can like develop that, and almost like you're using their biology to enhance humans. I don't know if that's something you'd think about down the road for well, I mean, what is the loot? What kind of power ups? What kind of story points or bones of like how can you move the needle when it comes to protecting Earth and the humans? Is it just about acquiring stronger Men in Black space guns, or is it like taking
a little
planets? Or
but I think it's more recovering human territory and then knocking out threats. I don't mean you have to exterminate an entire alien species, but you do need to remove them as a military threat.
Yeah. You can take back Side 6 or whatever, right?
Right. And maybe take out their ship manufacturing capabilities, or conquer their homeworld and get them to surrender.
Yeah.
Or if they're religious fanatics or something, maybe take their prophet captive.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. That you're like, yeah, we need to get these guys to quit killing us.
You can steal the eyes out of their giant statue, the big ruby eyes.
And in the case of the Knicks, where they fight each other almost as much as they fight others, you might be able to like split them and get some of them to help you.
Okay. Play them off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So what's the coolest... sorry, go ahead.
I see a question there.
Flashbang asks, are there going to be extensive bionic or cybernetic enhancements?
We do have a cybernetic. We have a whole page of cybernetic enhancements.
Cool.
Yep.
That we might add a few to, like as far as treasure as well. But yeah, basically you can slowly turn yourself into a cyborg if you wish to.
Cellsox asks, are your psychic likes a singular order or different factions working towards a similar goal? That is radical versus Puritan Inquisitors in 40K.
What would you say, Nate?
I would probably say, based just on the naming, because we haven't finished the lore necessarily yet. Ones are more like either A, this is the family we messed up a long time ago, and then their bloodline basically gave them powers.
Yeah. They lost control of the Kwisatz Haderach.
Where also one of our human variants basically has mental powers. Like the environment changed them enough. They have like low level telepathy and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they look, weird compared to most humans. But like, okay, you're human enough. And so in that gauge, it's basically that planet's population or two had that ability.
Yeah.
And then the other one kind of fits more into that role where it could be that's like the psionic ability of people.
Yeah.
I think it's less their factions and more just humanity kind of picked up on this and uses when they can use it.
Exploiting everything we have to try to not lose.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we did mention it here. We do have kind of a superhero system involved, and that involves a lot more of the biology and things of that nature.
It's amazing
and
how
to
these
clarify,
projects...
a different game.
It's a different game.
But it's amazing how these projects kind of feed into each other, right? Like,
well, some of the firearms certainly do.
Yeah. Let's see. There's some more good questions. Does destroying Xeno capabilities involve rules for reverse colonization and bastion building?
Yeah, I think that is exactly what you would want to do.
Rock on.
To ensure the peace, just like the end of World War II.
So, like one of the random missions might be
World War II ensured peace.
to basically occupy a city for like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for humans. Like, it's an alien city. Like, you conquered it, or your faction conquered it.
And your mission is to keep the populace in line for a month. Good job, or good luck, players.
And continue like pulling resources out of it, right?
Yep.
Mining it for alien grenades or whatnot. Tag asks, stuff like Cyberpunk has hacking mini games that can take over table play. Are you guys avoiding those types of tech systems?
So we have hacking, yes, but it's more like a skill check or like trying to get through a door or things of
So
that
it's not like
nature.
everybody has to stop while the one guy that
No.
has the hacking skill gets to play the whole game while everyone sits on their hands.
No, it's not like Cyberpunk.
Okay.
No, it's not Cyberpunk of that.
It would go just like a normal turn order, and generally speaking, they're getting like limited effects. For example, extracting a file or two, getting a system to turn on and off, getting access to a door, planning a virus, whatever it might be. It tends to be narrow in scope things that they can do quickly. And then obviously, if you kept doing this, you could really mess up an enemy computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So have you started playtesting this yet? I'm curious if
I believe we've mentioned this. This game has been in development for half a decade.
Oh yeah. But I mean,
so yes, very much so.
The people that have played it, has it been Horde Wars people that have played this as well? And like, I'm curious the kind of feedback you're getting.
Yeah, some yes, some not.
In our last round of playtesting, actually, we currently have a round of playtesting that hasn't wrapped up yet. Our current round of playtesting for this game, for Dropship, is probably going to wrap up in about 3 months. And then we'll have about a month break. And then we should start what we hope to be our final round of playtesting. And that will be more testing some of the tables and like some setting material and stuff. Not so much the character rules.
Just more fine-tuning the peripheral stuff that goes into it.
And checking some of the newer stuff that we added in to see just, hey, did that actually clean it up or not?
Yep.
Well, cool.
And then what's that next comment?
From Tag or from Paul?
Either one.
Tag says, I think that let me do Paul's in case he was responding. Paul says, yeah, decking in Shadowrun sucked in earlier editions. That was lunch break for every other player. Yes. And then Tag says, I think that problem is inherently there when you have more players doing more varied tasks, and it's tough to solve. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like from what I know of Horde Wars, the ethos is let's maximize the fun. Let's keep it moving. Let's not get bogged down in has it got an initiative system similar to Horde Wars where like
same one?
Same one. Okay. So, and one that I saw that Shadow Dark also has employed where you pick one person that wins it and then the seeding order, which solves a lot of problems. Like I really enjoyed it when we played together, how it didn't even, because, as I said, on Monday nights I play 5e and it's always like you roll and then everyone's got to try and remember where they go in the order. And then the DM mixes up because he's got multiple monsters that are hitting on different ones. And it's like, oh, come on, you're killing me. Let's just do it simple.
It's a time sink. You should get them to play some Horde Wars.
Heck yeah, man. Well, one of them, I think, actually, no, both of them have Horde Wars because I bought 3 copies of the book when I was there and I gave them to them. So I think we got no excuse, man.
Yeah, you should play. At the very least, you could steal the initiative system.
Yeah. Tag also says, one of the many lessons that OD&D teaches us that AD&D immediately forgot is that speed of play at the table maximizes the interactions that players can have with the campaign. And that is beautiful. The more stuff you can do in a single session, the more stuff to talk about with your friends at the water cooler the next day at work, when everyone just can't wait to get back to gaming.
We've also found that Nate really pushed the maneuver system. I started with a few player feedback, and then Nate pushing it has made it so that pretty much every career does get maneuvers at some point. They don't all start with them, but the ability to act off turn, even every once in a while, really helps the game speed. You wouldn't expect so, but because it's only once per round, it's limited. And the players are actually paying attention off turn far more often than they will when we're running other games.
Because they're
even
trying
the
to
same
decide,
player.
should I use my ability now or should I
or
hold it? And so they're not just on their phone while someone takes their forever turn and then back to me, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, I could really help out
and
here.
even like, you know, Fireball's like 3 lines
Yeah.
in the book. And that just simplifies things where it's like it's a very do this,
Yep.
and
This
it's
is
the
what
same
happens.
system for pretty much anything. Like, as you know, like, hey, this and this, like grenades.
Do you guys
are gonna work.
remember? I mean, I know you've been at this for a while. Do you remember when you came up with that maneuver, that off-turn play system, and like how did that conversation go? How did that come about?
Well, we needed it for like 3 abilities, like to make them work.
Okay.
It's like Magic Shield would be useless if you couldn't react with it.
Yeah.
Right? Counterspell, same thing. That doesn't do anything if you can't react with it.
You gotta,
Right.
you gotta.
And then
guess
shield
someone's
block
gonna
is a
use
knight.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we came up with it to like do really specific narrow things and go, okay, you have to at least be able to do this or it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Played that. A lot of the players enjoyed those. And then in playtesting, and then Nate was like, dude, we gotta put these in like every career.
And
Which
actually,
is
they
a
were
good
all
call.
limited abilities initially. So like shield block was like once per day.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
think about that now, like that career is kind of based around it. Like
Yeah.
I have it accessible
all the
Yeah.
time now.
all the time.
But that was playtesting told us how strong is this.
So yeah, how did you feel, Todd, when he said, "Yeah, no, we need to put this in everyone"? Were you like, "That makes sense," or were you like, "I don't know"? That
Oh, he was right. I was a little annoyed to have to rewrite a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
That's just
what are you doing?
That's just going to happen in game design, at least if you're doing it with any playtesting.
Yeah.
If you just write stuff and put it out there, you're not going to get that kind of feedback, but also your end product, I think, will suffer because it hasn't encountered the real world. And I don't mean by playtesting that you should run the game for your friends. That's good. That's better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
You need to have other people run the game for people you don't know and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, because that's when you kind of field test your tech writing. Were you able to get all the stuff that you understand into the head of the guy that's got to run it?
Yep.
Yeah, good call.
Do you want to play this, by the way?
Dude, heck yeah. Heck yeah, I want to play this.
Yep. All right. Well, if we can make that event happen or another one in the near future, what we should do is set up a day where you can come up and try and get a game of Horde Wars in and a game of DropShip in.
That sounds like a good day, man.
Make it a nice long day.
Right on. I'll get my signatures on my Horde Wars basic. And we'll do some testing, man. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, my goodness, I can't believe we've almost been going at this for 2 hours. I know you worked 10 hours today, 7 on your job, 3 on the game. So I really appreciate you guys coming on the channel and kind of breaking this. I think you might have talked about this game a little bit with Dyslexia and Dragons, but really breaking it wide open, the story, what you're working on next. If you guys are enjoying the show, please give us some support by hitting that thumbs up like button. If you haven't yet, you need to check out Advanced Horde Wars. This is the Black Lodge Games calls it an action RPG. Where would
they
you
also
say
called it the 2025 Game of the Year?
The 20, yeah, that's right. They did say that. Where would you put it? Like on a continuum of say Axe 2 to Shadow Dark. What kind of niche would you say Advanced Wars fits into?
Horde Wars Advanced, I would say, is going to play faster than Axe, but has more tactical depth and like is intended for longer term play than Shadow Dark.
Yeah.
Shadow Dark is, from what I can tell, the original design is meant for a lot more, like a few sessions, 6 to 12 sessions. Now they're putting out more products to kind of expand that, but ours is kind of from the core designed for long-term campaign play as well as one shots.
I would say I'm excited for all 3 games. Axe feels like almost like what BX was supposed to be, like the natural evolution. Shadow Dark feels to me like what 5e wanted to be at the beginning, but just bloated beyond.
Yep.
For me, Horde Wars feels like its own thing, like something completely different. you are not borrowing from another tradition. You have come up with something new, and it just I don't know what else to compare it to. It feels different to me than the stuff that I see that's like clearly got a lineage. But that, I haven't played a whole lot of stuff, so maybe I'm not the best one to ask. But
well, we got to remember, we built this from scratch. We basically went, all right, we want to make our own system because we were going to make some like 5th edition supplements, but the stuff we want to write isn't going to work with that.
It just didn't
so
work.
We need to make our own system.
Yeah.
What are we going to use? We're going to use a D12. All right, let's build a system.
Yeah. And the D12 is such a good choice because it's got enough numbers on it that it doesn't feel like you're just plinking a D4 down.
Mhm.
But the crits hit so much more often, and it makes it it's just more fun. You don't have to wait as long for something big to happen. And if you guys have not experienced it, like the moment when the big bag of dice comes out and you realize you've been making plans for a scenario that you have no idea was about to evolve, like there is an oh crap moment that comes, and like that's when you hopefully you haven't used your like all your maneuvers and all your 1 time per day stuff, because I remember my guy, he was a white wizard, and like I just shot a frost beam and like just deleted a whole line of those zombies, and like that just felt, even though it was like a first level character,
No,
and
even
though I could only do that once, I wasn't gonna just like Iron Man hand beam everything on the board.
Right.
Like I could at least make a pocket of space where we could breathe for a second, and it was cool being able to do something powerful right off the bat, even if it was limited. So if you guys haven't experienced it, you really should do yourselves a favor and try something completely different than anything you've experienced before. Is there anything that you guys were excited to talk about and Doofus Dundermoose just didn't bring it up or didn't ask it? This is also the part of the show where I'm going to repost your link in there. If people want more Blackwall, how can they support you? Where should they follow you at? All that stuff.
So blackwallgames.com is our website. You can buy Horde Wars Advanced or Horde Wars Basic there, PDFs or physical. If you are an international customer, you can order the hardcover, and we basically will then place an order for you with Lulu print on demand and have them deliver it to you. But you can pay right through our website for that. We're also on DriveThruRPG. They take a pretty large cut, so we don't prefer to sell through there. But I think we've sold almost 100 copies through there in the last few months. So like we get some sales through there. It's fine. But if you want to support us, buy through our website or from us in person.
Right on. Come to North Texas
also
RPG Con and get a copy of the book there. Play the games. Washington D.C. Labor Day weekend. Nova
Open.
Nova Open. Yeah.
Nova Open.
And then also, if you want to hold a small convention with with like 10 or 20 of your closest friends, you let us know. If we're close enough, we will try to make that happen.
Cool.
Because we've gotten to do 2 or 3 of those so far this year, and that's been really fun. Where a group of usually guys is like, hey, we're all getting together for this 2 or 3 day weekend. Do you guys want to come out and play with us or run games with us?
That's awesome. I think more groups of guys should do that, actually. If you can't commit to the full Bradford Walker clubhouse, but you got the club and everybody can get away for the weekend, and you're like, you know what? I just want some guys that know how to run the game to come in and run it for me. That could be an awesome time as well. So,
Arnie was there. Iron Man.
Yep.
Iron Man. Yeah, he says yes. Fun. All right. Well, if you guys like this kind of stuff and you want to see more interviews, click on the subscribe button. Otherwise, I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yep. Thank you all for having us.